Thomas Code, Chapter 10. The First 18. The first 18 is in the first 36. The ruling principle of this 36 is, let him who seeks not stop seeking until he finds. The ruling principle of the 18 is, let him who seeks not stop seeking until he finds, and he will become king over the all of it. Seeking and finding. The first 18 starts with the first and most important keystone saying, 1.1. Jesus said, let him who seeks not stop seeking until he finds. And when he finds, he will be troubled, and if he is troubled, he will become amazed, and he will become king over the all of it. This does double duty for the whole gospel and the first 36. It is necessary to split the saying between the first two 18s, and in this split we have assumed the first part applies to the first 18, and that the end, he will become king over the all of it, applies to both 18s. It has long been obvious to commentators that the first part of the Gospel of Thomas is about seeking and finding. Among the first 36 sayings are some of the most dynamic in the whole Gospel. It includes key sayings such as Thomas 11, Thomas 13, and, most significant of all, Thomas 22. These seeking and finding sayings are particularly concentrated in the first 18. As well as 1.1, some of the main seeking and finding sayings are 1.2, Thomas 3, the kingdom is not to be found in the heaven or under the sea, but inside you and outside you. 1.3, Thomas 4, the man aged in days should ask the child of 7 days about the place of life and will live. 1.4, Thomas 5, know what is in front of you and what is hidden will be revealed. 1.5, Thomas 6, there is nothing hidden or covered that will not be revealed. 1.7, Thomas 8, man is like a fisherman casting his net in the sea. He catches a large fish, the kingdom, and throws back the little fish, the things of the world. 1.8, Thomas 9, the sower casts the seed which yields an abundant harvest, the kingdom. 1.10, Thomas 11, a complex saying about the living and the dead, and about becoming one and two. 1.12, Thomas 13, a complex saying about the nature of Jesus and the transformation of the disciple by drinking from the stream that Jesus has measured out. 1.14, Thomas 15, when you find he who was not born of woman. 1.16, Thomas 17, Jesus will give what eye has not seen and ear has not heard. 1.17, Thomas 18, look for the end in the beginning. 1.18, Thomas 19, the 5 trees in paradise as the culmination of the search. It is clear that seeking and finding is a major theme of this 18, just as the ruling principles tell us. Equally, not every single saying fits in with the theme, and we will see. This is very typical. Most of the sayings will be earlier than the structure of the gospel, and there will always be sayings that need to be slotted in somewhere. The first shall be last. We have covered some of the structure of the first 18 in Chapter 3. The most important structural elements are the way the 18 clearly comes to an end at saying 1.18 with chiastic links between the beginning and end. The last saying, about the 5 trees in paradise, is symmetrical with the first keystone saying and also links back to the incipit at the very start of the gospel. The penultimate saying, 1.17, about standing in the beginning to know the end, is symmetrical with the second saying, 1.2, that the kingdom is not in the sky or the sea, but is inside you and outside you. Saying 1.15, which specifies the structure of Thomas better than any other saying, is symmetrical to 1.4, which is about knowing what is in front of your face so that the hidden will be revealed. All of these links concern sayings in the first and last 6s. But there is a mystery in these 6s, 2 sayings that we would certainly expect to be linked, but which are not in symmetrical positions. The mystery revolves around saying 1.5, Thomas 6, in which the disciples ask Jesus how they should fast, pray, and give alms. Jesus, however, does not answer this question until saying 1.13, Thomas 14. Why are the question and answer split into two halves that are separated by several intervening sayings? Some commentators take the normal Thomas must be wrong approach. Perhaps the scribe was not paying attention while copying 1.5 and simply missed out the answer. Certainly the end of 1.5 seems to repeat material in 1.4 that could indicate a tired scribe. If so, then the scribe or his supervisor noticed the mistake a little later and slotted the mistake a little later and slotted the missed ending of 1.5 into a convenient place at the beginning of 1.13. We have seen, however, that believing that Thomas is right rather than wrong has proved a much more fruitful approach to understanding the gospel. So we should start by assuming that the placing of the answer to 1.5 at 1.13 is deliberate and not a scribal error. Is there any link between the placing of these two sayings in the first 18? The answer might seem to be no. One is the middle saying of the second three, the other is the first saying of the fifth three. There is nothing special about these two positions. But perhaps we should not look at 1.5 but at the saying that comes after. This saying 1.6 is symmetrical with 1.13. Moreover, one is the end of a 3 and the other the beginning of a 3. We have seen the links between the first sayings in each of the 3s in the first 6 and the symmetrical last sayings in the 3s in the last 6. Could it be that the last sayings in the first 6 are linked to the first sayings in the last 6? If this were the case, it is not enough to just make a connection. We would actually have to move sayings. At first sight, this seems a crazy idea. It would suggest that the authors of Thomas have quite deliberately resorted to tricks to scramble the message of the gospel. But this is consistent with the idea that the meaning of the words is hidden or secret. And we will find strong evidence that we are indeed supposed to switch sayings. The first piece of evidence lies in clues in the sayings themselves. Let us look at the first saying, that would be affected by a move, the last in the first 3. 1.3 Jesus said, "The man aged in days will not hesitate to ask a little child of 7 days about the place of life, and he will live. For many who are first shall become last, and they will become a single one." Almost 4. This is currently situated in the first 3 of the 18 and would have to move to the last 3. And we find a phrase that suggests just this. For many who are first shall become last. In its new place, it is followed by 1.17. This saying, positioned almost at the end of the 18, does not itself move, but hints at the opposite move, from the end to the beginning. Have you discovered then the beginning, that you seek after the end? For where the beginning is, the end will be also. If these sayings are telling us about the move, then this move involves many sayings. So let us look at the results of switching the two pairs of sayings, starting with 1.3 in its new position. 1.16 are, Jesus said, "The man aged in days will not hesitate to ask a little child of 7 days about the place of life, and he will live. For many who are first shall become last, and they will become a single one." Thomas 4. 1.17. The disciple said to Jesus, "Tell us how our end shall be." Jesus said, "Have you discovered then the beginning, that you seek after the end? For where the beginning is, the end will be also. Blessed is he who will stand in the beginning, and he will know the end, and not taste of death." Thomas 18. To reflect the reordering, we will change the numbering of 1.3 to 1.16 R, where the R indicates that the saying has been reordered and moved. If we use a number without the ER, then it will refer to the saying in its original position. The two sayings above are obviously linked. We have the first becoming last compared to where the beginning is. The end will be also. We also have the theme of the man aged in days, presenting the end, learning the place of life from the child of 7 days, the beginning. These two sayings belong together. The counter move is that the old 1.16 becomes the new 1.3r. Jesus said, "If those who lead you say to you, 'Behold, the kingdom is in the sky,' then the birds of the sky will become first before you. If they say to you, 'It is in the sea,' then the fish will become first before you. Rather, the kingdom is inside you and outside you. When you should know yourselves, then you shall be known, and you shall realize that you are the sons of the living Father. But if, however, you do not know yourselves, then you are in poverty, and you are poverty." 1.3. Our Jesus said, "I will give you what eye did not see, what ear did not hear, and hand did not hear, and hand did not touch, and which did not enter into the heart of man." Thomas 17. Again, this new positioning makes perfect sense. Saying 1.2 is about the kingdom not being found in a particular place, discernible with the normal senses, but inside you and outside you. Saying 1.3r is about giving something that is not perceptible to the senses, eye, ear, and hand, and which has not entered into the heart of man. Both are about finding the kingdom, and they also are linked by a common theme. The next pair to be moved would involve switching 1.6, about a lion which a man will eat, and a man which a lion would eat, to immediately before 1.14, about the one who was not born of woman. There is nothing immediately obvious connecting these sayings, but that does not mean that this juxtaposition is wrong. In my book, The Rock and the Tower, I suggested a new interpretation of the man and the lion. This interpretation would cast new light on the one not born of woman. The final move is where we started. Saying 1.13 would become the new 1.6r. 1.5. His disciples asked him and said to him, "Do you want us to fast? And how shall we pray? Shall we give alms? And what rules for what we should not eat?" Jesus said, "Do not lie. And that which you hate do not do. For all things are revealed before heaven. For there is nothing hidden which shall not appear forth, and there is nothing covered which shall not be revealed." Thomas 6. 1.6r. Jesus said to them, "If you fast, you will beget a sin for yourselves. And if you pray, you will be condemned. And if you give alms, you will do evil to your spirits. And if you go into any land and walk in its regions, if they should receive you, eat what they set before you. Heal the sick among them. For that which goes into your mouth will not defile you. Rather, that which comes out of your mouth is that which will defile you." Thomas 14. The placing of the two sayings now makes perfect sense with the previous 1.13 continuing 1.5. So out of the four new combinations, at least three make immediate sense. This gives confidence that we are really meant to reorder the gospel in this way. We have only applied this reordering to the first and last six, but not to the middle six. This reflects the theme of interchanging the beginning and end. If we were to apply the reordering to the middle six, then sayings would only move around within the six and not between the sixes. In fact, all we would be doing is swapping sayings 1.9 and 1.10, which are already next to each other. Are we supposed to reorder the rest of the gospel in the same way? Saying 1.3 tells us that many who are first shall become last, but so far we have only moved two sayings from the first to the last six. We will see that switching the same pairs makes excellent sense in the second 18. However, reordering the remainder of the gospel does not make sense and would destroy some existing patterns. So we conclude that this reordering is intended to apply to the first 36 only, which is the domain of the first keystone saying. We will see that a very similar reordering does also apply to the third 18, and it also involves switching two pairs of saying, but they are not the same pairs. And this reordering of the third 18 is marked by its own internal clues. The diagram illustrates the links between sayings after the move.